In other words, Jesus placed the crowd back in the hands of the disciples. Oops, y'all missed that one. I said, in other words, Jesus placed the crowd back in the hands of the disciples. In other words, Jesus placed the community back in the hands of the church. In other words, Jesus gave us back them folk that we scared of.
All right.
All right.
Jesus said, instead of running and hiding, you give them something.
All right.
You know, the church has to be careful of using that phrase, somebody ought to. Somebody ought to feed them. Somebody ought to visit them. Somebody ought to mentor those children. Somebody ought to call the cops. Somebody ought to organize. Somebody ought to care.